Okay, hi, how are you? I hope you're good because I woke up with a headache today and I woke up in a very grumpy mood. And normally, when I'm really grumpy, uh, I need to be productive in order to change that. So I thought, what better way to be productive than to film a video, which is actually fun to me, but I also feel like I'm doing something with my life. So I wanted to do the Midyear Freakout Tag because why not? It seemed like really much fun. And yeah, I already have my list of books written out. Those are the answers to the questions. One thing just, or two things just to mention. The first thing is that I can no longer film on my phone because I already filmed this whole video and then my phone decided to just delete it and tell me that the recording has not been done because it gets overwhelmed by the size of the videos. That meant I needed to find another way to film, so I borrowed a microphone from my boyfriend and I have a camera, a Canon camera, and I'm filming this now, so maybe the audio sounds different. And the second thing, the cutting thing. Yeah, I'm not a native English, so I try to, because editing is horrible for me. If you have to cut down 1.5 hours to 20 minutes, editing is horrible. And it drains all of the fun part of talking about books for me. So I'm trying to leave in as much as possible and make it as short as possible, leaving in mistakes and not trying to say a sentence for 10 minutes straight just to have it be not even correct, but... So okay, let's just get started, and I'm so sorry if this is like going to be a little bit on the more grumpier side. I don't know, today is just not my day. But let's see, maybe I can turn it around with this. So, I don't know where my first page is. Okay, so the first question is the best book that you have read so far. So, my number one pick for this is American Dirt. American Dirt I have read recently and I have made a video about it. I think it's probably one of the best books that I read this year. And it has like some minor things and issues that like could be... I'm reading off of notes, so don't be disturbed or distracted by it. But I need that so I don't have to cut. Yeah, it had some minor things that I wish would have been different, but those are minor things. All in all, this is a very, very well crafted story. The characters are interesting, the story is packing, it is very thought-provoking, and all in all I really appreciate it whenever a book provokes my thoughts, or like makes me think about stuff and see the world a little bit differently. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and maybe this is like not the best rating that I gave this year. I had 5 of 5 star ratings this year, but like the books that I rated 5 out of 5 stars were books that I already knew and trusted in. Something like I think 2 books from Neil Gaiman, and then Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Like those are books that will always be 5 of 5 stars, and the main difference in the rating is that although American Dirt has impacted my view on life for like the week surrounding me reading it, Neil Gaiman and works like Harry Potter have impacted my whole life, like since I was a child, and that's the main difference. Not to say that I only rate books 5 stars that are that I know from my childhood or that have this huge impact on me. Not at all. Not like, if they are in my mind and if I keep coming back to them and keep thinking about them, this is either a 1 star or a 5 star in my opinion. And I have this example with Never Let Me Go. I read this in December, so it's technically not the Midyear Freakout Tag worthy. But still, this is one that comes specifically to my mind when I'm talking about books that, like, I had no clue before reading what they were about. And it's best with this book to not have any clue before going into it. But yeah, this one is a 5-star in my opinion. I still keep thinking about it, and I keep comparing it to things that are talking about similar topics. So yeah, just to clarify that. Moving on to the second question. This is much quicker than the first attempt of filming. Now this starts getting fun. Okay, second question. Best sequel you've read so far? Okay, so I haven't read sequels this year. I have read one, but that was more of the case. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you what sequel I read, and this is Mockingjay from Hunger Games, Susan Collins. It's the third sequel, the final one, and yeah, I didn't read it because of the new book. I forgot how it was called, but it has to do with the story of President Snow. Yeah, I didn't read it because of that. I actually found out afterwards that there was this new book being released, but I read it because it was on my halfway read shelf. Like, I read it when I was 18, I think, and I left it at page 100. I don't know, I liked the first 2 parts really much, but then after they stopped the arenas, I got de-interested, I think, and so I left it abandoned. And now I picked it up and finished it, and since it's my only sequel I read this half year so far, it is also the sequel that is the best of them all. Yeah, I've read many first parts of sequels. I read like Saga, the first part. I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or I listened to it on the audiobook this year. And I don't know, I have not read second or third part of sequels so far. So nothing more to say to that. Yeah, third question. New releases you haven't read yet but want to. Yeah, new releases. I don't know what counts as a new release. Does it have to be released in the first half of 2020? If so, I have only one, which is Hood Feminism, or at least it's the one that I am aware of. Maybe I have bought some that, like, I just didn't recognize were released in 2020 because I don't really look at the release dates of the books. Yeah, Hood Feminism. It was released in 2020, in the first half of 2020. Besides this one, because I wasn't sure if it was only like, what would you consider a new release? I don't know. In my opinion, a new release would also include Educated. I know it's technically been released in 2018, but you know, if you are living under a rock like I do, this is a new release. So this is probably the one that I'm most excited about, because education is just a topic that is dear to my heart. So yeah, Educated, if it counts. Okay, fourth question. Man, so many things on my floor. I need to orientate myself before I answer a question. Okay, most anticipated? No. Yeah, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Easy. Before I start to clarify which ones are my most anticipated second half year releases, I need to explain that Austria, the country I am living in, which is in Europe, tends to release books that are written by American authors, or USA authors, later than the USA does. This is logical, but therefore it may be a surprise to some that one of the most anticipated books that I want to read is In the Deep. Where is my where are my notes? So, is The Deep by River Solomon. This has not been released yet in Austria. I don't know if the English version exists, because it's been out on the market for a while, you know. And I have just placed an order and they told me that it hasn't been released yet. So I'm not sure if I just ordered the German version, which then it could be explained through like the process of translation, therefore it being released so late. But I actually didn't like that. It wasn't my intention to buy the German version. The second thing could be that it was just something that they didn't think that would be so popular, and therefore they didn't order it to Europe, and that's why it gets released later. But either way, I haven't got a copy yet, and I'm not gonna get one until I think in a couple of weeks' time. So this one is one that I'm really excited about. Another one is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. I'm sorry, I know that I mispronounced his name, but yeah, So You Want to Talk About Race. Also highly anticipated by me. Hasn't been released as well. And Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. Yeah, I have all of the Twilight books. All of the Stephanie Meyer concerning Edward Cullen and forgot her name. Yeah, it's been a time since I've read them. I was like 16, 15, something like that. But still, I loved them when I was a teenager. And I cannot not read this, you know? Even though I have outgrown this phase, I still want to read Midnight Sun. So I'm going to, and I know it's going to be released in the USA in August, somewhere in August. In Austria, it's going to be released in September. So it will be my September read. I'm looking forward to all the opinions on BookTube by then, because there will be lots of people talking about this book when it will arrive. Okay. Biggest disappointment. Where is my list again? I know which one it was, but I need my notes because I actually put some thought. Into this one. Okay, listen to me. I have two books that were my biggest disappointment. And one of them is Supermarket by Bobby Hall, aka Logic. So I could probably talk forever about this, but I have already written a review on... by the way, are the cars too loud? Because my door is open and I just figured that maybe you could hear them, so I'm gonna close the door. So this should be better. Okay. Yeah. I thought that since Logic is a rapper, he would be very good with words and speech, but it turns out that he's not a really good storyteller. The main issue that I had with this is that I had the feeling that Logic doesn't fully know his way around books yet. He even admits that in the acknowledgements. He says that he has been binge reading for a week for the first time in his life. I don't know if that was about the binge reading or about reading in general, but he admitted that he wasn't a big reader until his mid-20s, and that the book itself, like, this is something that really annoyed me. It annoyed me reading this, and I'm so happy that the acknowledgements were in the end of the book, because maybe I wouldn't have finished it if I had read it first. He stated that after this week, he told his best friend that he was going to write a book because he found it fascinating. And his best friend answered something along the lines of, no, you can't just write a fucking book just because you read them. And Logic was like, challenge accepted. To me, this just screams of something you just wanted to cross off a bucket list. He completely disregarded the fact that it takes more to writing than just to sit down and write words on a piece of paper. The story itself is really bad. It's missing so many things. Missing originality. It is missing cohesion. It is missing research, a lot of research. And it feels rushed and it feels thoughtless, and yeah, it just feels like he didn't understand the craft behind book writing. And he didn't enjoy it as well. He was not doing it out of enjoyment. He was doing it out of proving that he could write a book. So, wow. All of a sudden the camera angle doesn't work anymore because I'm sitting differently. And now I'm putting my hair up because my hair is annoying. I'm so sorry for the mood of this video, but I just can't be bothered. Can I ever be bothered? I guess not. But this day has been so unproductive from the moment it started. I don't know. I hope you're okay with that. But moving on with the second disappointment, which is All the Light You Cannot See. And you cannot see the cover, so because it blends with my wall. All the Lights You Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This was a disappointment because maybe I have got my hopes up too high. Maybe I have. You have to understand that every time that somebody talked about this book, every time I turned my head, this book got praised. And so therefore, naturally, my hopes were high in the air. I thought that this would be one of the best books that I will ever read. Spoiler alert, it is not. It is actually one of the worst books that I have ever read. And I don't mean that to shade anybody. I don't mean that to tell anybody that they shouldn't love this book. Because if you do, that's good. That's good for you. More power to you. I wish I could have loved this as much. Okay. The reasons. I'm going to talk about the reasons why I was not a fan of it. And those are very, very subjective reasons. So the main reason why I didn't like it was because it was very boring. Unfortunately, when the characters got introduced, the way they were talked about, the way that you were going with them on their way through life or through the story, it was very, very clear to me where they were going to head. And it was just that at that time I lost interest. As soon as I knew, okay, those characters are somehow interlocked, but I'm not going to know how until the end, I didn't care anymore. Also, the characters were really uninteresting. I couldn't bring myself to care for the characters. The story was just not interesting enough for me to fill over 500 pages. And so, although the chapters were short, it took me an entirety to go through every single one. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this one. I know some people love it, and if that's the case with you, please, please, please don't let me, a random person on the internet, upset you for liking this one. Okay, number 6, something positive to change it up. Your biggest surprise. It is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Okay, I started that book 2 or 3 years ago, and I left it aside for those 2 or 3 years until I picked it up just recently in an attempt to clear up this shelf. And I left it at page 100, like I left Mockingjay. And I left it because it was very boring in the beginning. It was something... It's another kind of boredom than with All the Lights You Cannot See, but it was something I knew it was building up, you know, and I just hadn't got the patience to go on a journey with this book. But now I did. Now I committed to it and I read it, and I do not regret reading it at all. It was one of the books that made me feel shivers go down my spine. It was creepy. I was frightened while reading. In my opinion, it is comparable to The Shining, and I saw people compare it to this one as well, because it's very much the things that characters think, or the things that get discovered, but not like some actual physical threat that you're afraid of. It's a slow process, but therefore it even hits you harder when the things actually start to move. So this one completely turned around for me. Okay, leaving this aside and moving on to the 7th question, which is your new favorite author. I have to pick Janine Cunnins for this, so the author of American Dirt, because this one was a huge surprise, and I also want to read other books by her. She has a lot of hard topics, a lot of topics regarding losing a family member or your loved ones. And though I'm not looking for such topics in the moment, because I feel like I have already a lot of hard topics sitting on my shelf waiting to be read, it's definitely on my mind to come around reading something of her, by her, at some point in the future. So the next one is number 8. Your newest fictional crush. So your newest fictional crush. Okay. Whew, this is hard because I don't know. I feel like I haven't had a crush on somebody in a book for a long time. But maybe like Marco from Saga, because isn't he gorgeous? Can you please just admit that he's ridiculously handsome and beautiful? So based off of looks, because I don't know where his story is going to end and where it's going to go, based off of looks, he's like really handsome. I don't know, I just have something for dudes with horns, I guess. But then again, another character that I didn't want to leave out was maybe Mia from a supermarket. Again, so she was the female sidekick. She wasn't a sidekick, but she was the female love interest of the main character. And she was very perfect. Which is actually also something that you could criticize, but I'm not going to here. She was a very mature girl, to say. She wasn't overreacting or because of tiny things that happened, or she wasn't complicated. She was level-headed. She was very also standing up for herself at certain points. It was nice. It was nice reading such a character. I liked her actually. And I can see why the main character had a love interest in her. She would be a nice girlfriend, I think. So, number 10 would be a book that made you cry. I'm gonna combine that with book that made you happy, because I haven't had a book that I cried over So far, I mean, in anger. I cried out in anger, I think, a couple of times. But a book that I was really sad while reading, not so far, but currently reading A Little Life, so maybe that will change by the end of the week. Who knows? But so far it hasn't happened. So I'm going to concentrate on the book that made me happy, which was Saga. Okay, so I'm generally not a fan of sci-fi. I don't know why, I just can't get my head around the world. I barely can do it when it's on the earth, and I even less can do it when it's out of space. And at first, like this world and the introduction into it overwhelmed me, and I was like not really having it. But as soon as the world building stopped and the story was going on, I was hooked, and I was turning the pages like, yeah, that's a good story. I was genuinely excited, you know. So this one made me quite happy. I loved the drawings. I loved the drawings. They were so beautiful. Such a beautiful art style. I don't know. I love the creatures. I mean, can I show that without it being a spoiler, or without it... I'm not monetized, so it's not going to get demonetized, but I don't know. I'm just gonna try. Look at her. I mean, you can barely see her because it's out of focus. I think that's okay. Yeah, look at her. She's beautiful. What a beautiful character. How can you come up with that? And you haven't even seen what's underneath her skirt yet, so... And she's still beautiful. Man, all those characters. Okay. Maybe I'm gonna introduce a counter for every time that I said, okay, too many times. Most beautiful book, question number 12, that you have bought so far or received. Where is it? There it is. For this, I think I'm going to take Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. It's just a very happy cover. It's super colorful. I appreciate it. It makes me happy when I look at it, and therefore I think it's beautiful. Look how it stands out behind, like, against the background. It's so colorful, you know? Other books disappear in my background, but this one stands out. That's how beautiful it is. Yeah, normally I would take any of my graphic novels, but I feel like this is unfair because graphic novels are generally there to have some aesthetic nuance to them. So I was going with like a book, an actual book without pictures. So that's why I chose this one. And then the second to last question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now listen, this one is easily answered by all the ones behind me, but this is just not a very human thing to do. Like, it's not humanly possible to do that. But I have on my list some books that I have really putting off for a long time and that I finally need to read, and one of them is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I finally want to read that this summer. I have had it in my shelf for a while now. I bought it last year. I have heard how great it was from so many sides, and I want to read it. That's what I need to read before this year finishes. Another one that I'm very, very, very excited about right now. So as soon as I have read the 3 books that are left from my reading challenge, from my June reading challenge, I'm going to read, like, first of all, some of those books, like by Black authors. But along those lines, I will be heading into Stephen King's Misery, because I'm on a hype train right now and I need to take advantage of that. Because I was just the other day watching Noelle Gallagher talking about Pet Sematary, The Shining, and Misery along the same sentence. And she was saying, like, okay, she wasn't exactly saying this, but something like, if you are new to Stephen King and want to start reading him, then you need to read The Shining, Pet Sematary, and Misery, because they were all very unique and different, but then again, like, encapsulated the phenomenon that Stephen King has created around himself. Yeah. And if, like, to me it sounded like she was saying, if you loved Pet Sematary and you loved The Shining, you will definitely love this one. That's how I took it. And that's why I'm so freaking excited about reading this one, because I love those books. I love them. And if it's anything like that, I will love this as well. Okay, number 14, and the final question. Your favorite book community member? Okay. I am neither on Instagram, nor am I on Twitter. And I have only recently discovered BookTube, like really literally 4 months ago, something like that. Sorry, my neighbor just hit, like, my neighbor's getting some packets or something. My heart jumped. Okay, yeah, I have discovered BookTube not for a long time now. So I have not a huge list of booktubers that I'm actually watching. And they are also not really diverse. So I hope that maybe you, whoever is watching this and made it this far, could give me some recommendations so I can actually diversify my booktuber list. So the booktubers that I follow are very, very popular and have a huge following already. The first one is obviously Kat from Paperback Dreams. She was the first one I ever watched. So I watched, like, the Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey review, renting, something like that. And then I fell in love with her and I had to watch, like, all other videos because she's just very fascinating and makes me laugh, and we have a similar taste as well in when it comes to horror or thrillers. So I get some recommendations of books that I should read from her, like the GYO one, the horror manga, for example, or Ian Reid's I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which I still have to read. And then I am following Cindy. Okay, I love her thoughts on books. I love that she's critical, just as Kat. I myself tend to be very critical when it comes to books. And I like that somebody's actually sharing those views with me. We do not agree on everything. Like, there are certainly some things that I think they are viewing too critically, or some things that they like that I didn't. But for the most part, I think that when I listen to them and watch their videos, I feel very much heard. Because, you know, you get backlash for sometimes thinking too critical, but you can't really change the way you think. At least not I. I have always thought this way. And I'm I don't think that it's bad, actually. A critique doesn't mean that something is not good. Okay, my camera stopped again, so I'm sorry if this is a different shot than the previous one, but I just wanted to finish my sentence so I could wrap up the video. I recently discovered Noelle Gallagher and Ariel Bissett. I'm sorry, I know I said that wrong, but I think you know who I mean. Those two are very positive. I love to listen to them because they motivate and inspire me to read. Because the way that they talk is just so happy. So those are actually like all of the ones that I follow. So you see, it is a very, very incomplete list. So if you have some recommendations for me, go ahead, let me know, and I will look into them. Other than that, I have nothing left to say, except thank you, because filming this video made my day a little bit better and brighter. But other than that, nothing left to say, so bye!